You know, when we build a website, we spend a lot of time thinking about how it looks. But have you ever stopped to think about how it sounds, how it communicates? I don't just mean the words on the page. I'm talking about the buttons, the forms, the menus, all the interactive bits. Today, we're going to teach our websites to speak a universal language, one that makes sure everyone can understand and use them. Let's dive in.
So, picture this. You're browsing a site, a pop-up appears, and you see that familiar little X in the corner to close it. Super simple, right? You don't even think about it. But for someone using a screen reader, that same button might just be announced as button, unlabeled. That's it. No clue what it does. This is the disconnect we're tackling today, that huge gap between what a sighted user sees and what assistive technology actually understands.
And that really gets to the heart of the problem. A website can look absolutely stunning. It can be a masterpiece of visual design, but for many users, it can still be a totally confusing, silent black box. When the parts of your site don't explain what they are and what they do, you're creating invisible barriers.
And who does this actually affect? Well, it's a way bigger group of people than you might think. It's people who are blind or have low vision, who rely on screen readers to navigate the web. It's also people with limited mobility, who might use voice commands instead of a mouse. If a button doesn't announce its purpose, for these users, it's as if it's not even there.
So what's the fix? Well, we have to teach our websites a language. And that language is pretty well defined by the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, specifically Criterion 4.1.2. Don't worry about the number, because it all boils down to three really simple pieces of information: its name, its role, and its value. First up, we've got the name. This is just what it sounds like. It's the component's identity. It's the label that tells you what it is. For a button, the name could be Submit or Add to Cart. It's the most basic, fundamental thing we need to know. What is this thing?
Next, there's the role. Think of this as the component's job description. What does it do? Is it a button you can click, a checkbox you can check, a link you can follow? The role tells the user how they're supposed to interact with it. Without a clear role, it's just a mystery.
And finally, there's the value or state. This is the live update. It's the part that tells you the component's current status, which can change from moment to moment. Is that little toggle switch on or off? Is the accordion menu expanded or collapsed? This is that crucial feedback that tells the user, hey, what you just did, it worked.
This right here brings it all together beautifully. If a component could literally introduce itself, this is what it would say. It clearly states its name, subscribe to newsletter, its role, checkbox, and its current state, unchecked. When your code can provide these three little bits of information, you've successfully taught that component how to have a clear conversation with anyone using any technology. Okay, so that's the theory. That's the what. Now let's get into the how. How do we actually write our code to make these introductions happen? Well, you might be surprised. It's often way easier than you think.
So what's the secret sauce? Honestly, the absolute best, simplest, #1 way to do this is to just use standard HTML elements for what they were built for. Things like the button element, the input element, the A tag. They already have their roles baked right in. Browsers and screen readers already know exactly what they are and how they work.
Yeah, just sticking to these three simple rules gets you like 90% of the way there without breaking a sweat. Use real HTML features. And please resist that temptation to build a button out of a div just because it feels easier to style. Use elements for their intended purpose, keep your code nice and tidy, and the browser will do almost all of the heavy lifting for you.
Here's a classic example of what not to do. We've got a text area, but there's no label programmatically tied to it. So for a screen reader user, this is a complete mystery box. Is it for my name, my email, a secret message? There's just no way to know.
And here's the fix. It's so simple. By adding a label element and using the for and ID attributes to connect it to the input, we've given it a crystal clear, accessible name. Now, a screen reader will announce, enter your birth date, edit text. See that? All of a sudden, the user knows exactly what to do. A single line of code can make all the difference.
Okay, but let's be real. What about all the fancy custom stuff? You know, the slick-looking accordions, the custom pop-ups, the interactive sliders that don't have a standard HTML tag? For those, we got to pull out a slightly more advanced set of tools. And that toolkit is called ARIA. It stands for Accessible, Rich Internet Applications. Just think of ARIA as a bunch of extra attributes you can sprinkle into your HTML to fill in those accessibility gaps. When standard HTML doesn't quite have what you need to describe your component's name, role, or state, ARIA is your backup plan.
Now this little chart here shows some of the key players. ARIA label is what you use to give something a name when there's no visible text. ARIA labeled bide is super clever. It lets you use text that's already on the page as a label. The role attribute is for when you've built something custom and you need to tell the browser, hey, this thing I made, it's supposed to act like a button. And then you've got attributes like ARIA checked to communicate that all-important state.
So let's circle back to that silent X button from the very beginning. By adding just one little attribute, ARIA label equals close, we've given that button a voice. Now, instead of hearing button unlabeled, a screen reader user hears close, button, boom, problem solved. It's really that easy.
And look, providing a name and role is awesome, but it's only 2/3 of the story. The state is just as crucial. This is all about feedback. Attributes like ARIA checked or ARIA expanded are what tell a user if their action actually did something. Without these state notifications, a user is flying blind. It's like flipping a light switch in a dark room and having no idea if the light actually came on. You're just left wondering, did that work?
So, we've talked about the problem, the language, and the tools you need. Putting this all together is what really transforms you from someone who just writes code into someone who builds fluent, inclusive digital experiences for absolutely everyone. So what's the big takeaway here? It's this. When you correctly provide a name, role, and value for every single interactive thing on your page, you're not just checking an accessibility box. You're building a bridge. It's a bridge that lets assistive technologies understand your site, allows users to control it confidently, and ensures everyone stays in the loop with every little change that happens on the screen. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Go back and look at your own work, your own projects. Ask yourself this question. Is every single component on my site introducing itself correctly? Is every button, every link, and every form field speaking clearly? Because teaching your website to speak, that is one of the most powerful things you can do to make the web a better place for everyone.